I'm curious how you view the impact of stablecoins as it relates to either a catalyst for tokenization or just a catalyst for institutions to care more about Ethereum and blockchain overall. Obviously, a huge story, like just in general, in terms of that like class of assets growth, but then also the clarity that the Genius Act provided for it. So maybe for the audience, can you contextualize like what the growth of the stablecoin space means, like more broadly?
I think it was the watershed moment. I think it's the tip of the iceberg for what the potential of the industry is. But the Stablecoin Act passing, the Genius Act passing, was the validation moment that unlocks innovation potential specifically for Ethereum. And that's because Ethereum is the platform that, honestly, because it's so global and decentralized, it didn't cut corners through the last 4 years of oppressive regulatory environment. People didn't deploy because they didn't have rules of the road. By having stablecoins etched in the law, institutions were now allowed to use Ethereum. Stablecoins are allowed to flourish in the US. Innovation could actually happen in the US. It was the beginning. I mean, I think that stablecoins are the canary in the coal mine for all of tokenization because all stablecoins are tokenized dollars. And so you're already seeing every single bank's trying to create their own stablecoin. Every single payment provider is trying to create their own stablecoin. Look at the innovation that's being unleashed just by stablecoins, the simplest form of tokenization being codified in the law. Now project that into when there's a framework for all tokenized assets. I think Ethereum is going to absolutely fly in terms of adoption, in terms of price, in terms of seeing innovation happen. Because when you have tokenized dollars and then you have tokenized assets and they can transact, and then you have all these applications that can be built in finance, decentralized finance. I like to call it programmatic finance. I think that's a little bit more accurate. Innovation is just getting started. So I think it was Tom Lee calls the stablecoin build the ChatGPT moment for crypto. I would agree with that. I think it absolutely is. But I think it's the ChatGPT 1.0 moment. I think when we see ChatGPT 2.0 and 3.0, that'll be when tokenization and the Clarity Act go into effect. And then we'll see like another golden bull run.
I'm curious if you have any takes on, what types of assets or markets will move into the tokenized realm next. Like, what do you think just like naturally makes sense from, whether that's your former markets and credit or whether it's real estate, whether it's private funds. I'm just curious like how you see, sort of what types of assets move into the world of tokenization, when and how.
I have to say the other cop out answer, but it's really all of them in parallel. Like it's too positive sum, and there's too many tailwinds behind the industry. It's almost like we have all this pent up demand to tokenize things and put them on blockchains, and no one was allowed to. But now the dam's breaking, and now everything's coming on chain. So dollars were first, tokenized dollars are stable coins, but you're seeing banks do tokenized bank deposits, which I think are stablecoin plus plus. You're starting to see tokenized money market funds everywhere. Those are way more. I mean, arguably, things should transact in tokenized money market funds rather than in stablecoins because then you're embedding the yield into the asset. So that's coming on chain. Tokenized treasuries have come on chain. Tokenized stocks are making a huge push, and a lot of different ecosystems are working on that. And you're seeing even the Nasdaq saying they'll allow for settlement of tokenized stocks when the DTCC is ready to do that as well. So tokenized stocks are a really, really cool implementation. I come from credit land, so I obviously think that all the different credit assets from bonds to CDS to mortgages, etc., all of those should belong on chain too. Commodities too. We have a lot of players in our team that have deep roots in commodities, and I know you do as well. So you probably have more articulate thoughts than I do, but I think commodities belong on chain as well. So they're all going to come at once.
I agree on commodities. I can speak to where I have experience. I would say that to your nuance, it's like a question of like which types of commodities, when. And I think if you're talking about oil, natural gas, these are by definition global. These are markets that also have like some physical constraints that are really interesting and dynamic. I think electricity will be something that'll take a lot more time because the power market is just so dynamic. It's also got like probably the most complexity of any market in the commodity space, because it has to deal with weather. It has to deal with like a variety of other sort of physical components that I think make it harder to encode into sort of just a standard sort of like tokenization paradigm. But I 100% agree with you that we'll see some component of commodities move on like fairly like easily, especially given not only the financial, but then the physical aspect of like either delivering a commodity or not, as it relates to those contracts. Vivek, in terms of if we fast forward to 2030 and like you're right, that Ethereum becomes Wall Street's new backbone, What do you think are the starkest changes relative to the like current status quo and the current financial system and its paradigm that like just change completely?
It's actually ironic because I think when Ethereum does ultimately win, it's going to be quite invisible. So there won't really be a front end change to most people. Just like we don't think about the hardware in our iPhone when we use an iPhone, but iPhones are universal. Just like we use the internet, but we don't think about how the internet actually, the plumbing of the internet functions. The financial system is not going to know it's operating on top of Ethereum. It just will. So I think Ethereum will be universal. All assets will be tokenized. They'll settle programmatically on public Ethereum L1 and on a variety of L2s. And the best user experience is when people don't know they're using the technology underneath it. That being said, what I do see happening is once you have Ethereum universally as the backbone of the financial system, but also the broader economy, I think ETH is going to be one of the most valuable assets on the planet. I think it's gonna flip gold in a really, really big way. And you're going to have this store of value that's universal. It's held by banks, held by governments, held by the Federal Reserve, for example. Like that's where I see ETH's position as global infrastructure when it's finally done.